Hi, my name's Alex. I'm one of the expert IELTS teachers here at E2language.com, and today I want to talk to you about vocabulary for IELTS. And I'm going to answer 3 key questions for you. Here they are. 1, why do I need to build vocabulary? 2, what vocabulary should I learn? And 3, how can I learn it? Let's start with the first question. Why do I need to build vocabulary? This is a fair question. There are a lot of people out there promising shortcuts and hacks, but can you really get a high IELTS score with a low vocabulary level? Well, in writing task 1, 2, and speaking, your vocabulary makes up 25% of your score. So a quarter of your score goes to vocabulary. And these parts of the IELTS test are marked by human raters. So it's very difficult to trick a human rater into thinking your vocabulary is better than it really is. Let's look at IELTS writing. I'm going to show you a typical task 2 topic, and I want you to think about your own current language ability. And I mean current because your language and your vocabulary today are not the same as they're going to be tomorrow or next month or next year. Here's a typical essay question. With deforestation, urban development, and illegal hunting, many animal species are becoming endangered, and some are even facing extinction. Do you think it is important to protect animals? What can be done to deal with this problem? So when reading this, our students at E2 Language would already be thinking about their vocabulary library. What do I know about this topic? What relevant or appropriate language can I generate? So for something like illegal hunting, they might know a synonym is poaching. Becoming endangered, what's another way to say that? Dying out. Facing extinction, how about on the verge of extinction? And what about the ideas? Do you think it's important to protect animals? Why? What can be done to deal with this problem? For instance, could we use sanctuaries? Could we increase penalties for poaching? Implement captive breeding programs? You can see that a rich vocabulary is a huge benefit here. So that brings us to IELTS speaking. Let's stick with the animals theme here and look at this typical speaking part 2, the topic talk. So you could be asked anything really, but you might be asked to describe an animal that you're interested in. That's a pretty easy topic, right? But how confident are you that you could talk for 2 minutes about an animal that you're interested in? You might want to talk about an elephant, for example. So it's big and grey, but what's this? And what's this? Do you know the word tusk? Do you know the word trunk? It lives for a long time, but some more interesting vocabulary. It's a wide roaming herbivore. It's known for its intelligence. It lives in a close-knit matriarchal society. This kind of language is very niche, very topic specific, but very useful when doing an IELTS speaking test. How about another animal, a tiger? Do you know what this is? These, and this? Stripes, tail, paw, claws, fangs. Those are just some of the words that you could use. The point is you need to be ready for anything when it comes to IELTS writing and speaking. On to IELTS reading and listening. Let's consider IELTS reading first. Now, in academic reading, you get 3 pretty big texts, 1, 2, 3, and you probably won't know every word. In fact, there are often words that even native speakers don't know in the reading texts. And it's not essential to know 100% of the words when you're reading, but you do need a certain percentage to be able to understand the text. This is called lexical coverage. Researchers vary, but most estimate that learners can understand a text when 95 to 98% of the words are known. And interestingly, it's a little bit lower for listening comprehension. So it looks like this. You need to know this amount of words to be able to understand a text. Now, it looks daunting, but the principle to keep in mind here is that the more vocabulary you know, the better your language will be and the more you'll be able to communicate and also comprehend. So that answers the first question of why and leads us to the second question, what vocabulary do I need to know? There are quite a few lists of words, and you can download some of these on our website at e2language.com. But I'm really interested in IELTS reading, and I wanted to find out what vocabulary in particular do you need to know to understand a text in IELTS reading. So I took a bunch of reading texts and ran a bit of an analysis on them, and this is what I found. Around 80% of the words in the reading text came from the first 2,000 words in English. That is the 2,000 most frequent words used in English. And the good news is that you probably already know heaps of these, if not all of them. They're words like the, good, bad, idea, spend, and other words of that nature. About 5.5% came from the academic words list, which is a list of 570 words commonly found in academic texts. So these are words like research, theory, initial, acquire, valid. So what about the others? Well, these were words that were either higher than the first 2,000 words in English, but realistically, are you going to print out and learn 4,000, 5,000, up to 10,000 or 15,000 words? Not really. So let's consider these words just less common words or technical and topic-specific vocabulary. In an analysis of a few IELTS reading texts about animals, these are the kinds of words that we see: habitat, predators, livestock, foraging, captive. So this is the basic breakdown of a typical IELTS reading text. So when it comes to the first 2,000 words and the academic words list, these are easily accessible and you can find them here on our website. But for the other vocabulary, you need a bit of a system, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So just a quick summary about what vocabulary you need to know. You need the most frequent words in English. You should know the academic word list, and also you need to build topic-specific vocabulary. So the big question is, how can I do that? How can I learn new vocabulary? I've mentioned word lists a couple of times, and they do have their place, but how helpful is it to download a list of words and look at it? Actually, you need to take those words and make them your own. You need to see them again and again. You need to integrate them into your own vocabulary. So yes, a list of words is nice to have, but learning vocabulary needs a little bit more than that. We need to think about deliberate and incidental learning. So deliberate learning is when your full attention is on learning the vocabulary. You might be just looking it up in a dictionary, writing out the meaning in your book, or doing drills in class, or using flashcards. And your aim with deliberate learning is to learn the vocabulary. This is actually really useful. So even if you do have a vocabulary list, you should write it out by hand into your own system and your own format. So in a live class, we spend a bit of time doing this, working on the deliberate learning of vocabulary. And you can do it alone, but it's much easier when someone else has prepared all those activities for you, right? This brings us to incidental learning. Incidental learning happens when you're not trying to learn the vocabulary, you're actually focused on something else. So you might be just reading the newspaper or listening to a podcast, or perhaps reading an article in order to write a summary of it. So in this case, you're just accidentally or incidentally bumping into the vocabulary. And this is another key part of remembering and incorporating vocab into your own language. Now, a key point here is input. If you're going to meet familiar words in new contexts, you need to be reading and listening to a huge range of language. And in a traditional language course, you're a bit limited by time when it comes to this kind of extensive exposure to language. But these days, we've got the internet, so the whole world is at your fingertips, and the job of a good language course or language teacher online is to curate some useful resources for you. So once you've got the words that you need to know, your teacher can direct you to an article, a video, a podcast where you can meet that word over and over. So of course, you need both types of learning, both deliberate and incidental. You need to learn it on purpose, and then you need to accidentally bump into it over and over. So at E2, we've built this into a kind of vocabulary system that we call GROW, G-R-O-W. So let's consider this acronym as the basis for your vocab learning. G stands for gather. This is the deliberate part of the learning where you collect or gather information about the word. So you might get the meaning, the translation into your language, the pronunciation, related words and collocations, as well as examples. So you should gather this information into a system. It might be a flashcard system, it might be a vocabulary journal, it might be a list of words on your phone. So this is just the very first step. To learn the words, you need to review. So you need to see the words, hear the words, write the words a lot. So why do we need to review? Well, this comes down to your memory and something called the forgetting curve. So imagine on day 0, when you first learn something, you've got 100% of the meaning, you can remember the translation, you've used it in a sentence, you know how to spell it. But day after day, as you can see from day 1, 2, 3, you start to forget quite a lot, quite quickly. If you review at day 1, notice that your retention goes back up to 100%, and then the forgetting curve slows down a little bit. You forget a bit less. If you review then on day 3, review on day 6, you can see that you are retaining a lot more information. So that's why it's important to keep coming back to the vocabulary. Don't just look at it once. Don't download a list of vocab and glance at it, because you're never going to remember it like that. You have to review, review, review. So use flashcards, spelling tests, gap fills, dictation, and seek out lots of input. O stands for own. This means you've got to make the vocabulary your own. Write it, say it, read it. Incorporate it into your active vocabulary. And the last one stands for wander. So what this means is that now you go out into the wild and you try to find that word in its native habitat. You might find it in the newspaper, in a podcast, on a TV show, in conversation with a friend. So explore it in the wild. Read and listen to a wide range of media. And as you're doing that, you might be able to bump into new words and you can start the whole process again. Gather, review, own, wander. And of course, we can help you with this. In our IELTS academic and general courses on e2language.com, we incorporate vocabulary into the self-study course and our live classes. And you can also check out our course Test Ready on e2school.com, which focuses on vocabulary and collocation building. Sign up for free at both places. Let's recap. Learning vocabulary is important. You can't trick an examiner, and you can't trick a reading and a listening test. You should learn high frequency and topic specific vocabulary and use the acronym GROW to grow your vocab. Gather information about it, review because repetition means retention, own your new vocab, personalize it and activate it, and then find the vocab in new contexts as you wander around. We can help get you started with the IELTS topic toolkit on our blog. Follow the link below for topic 1, which is all about animals. In the toolkit, you'll find 20 words with definitions and example sentences. You'll find speaking questions, essay topics plus a sample essay, as well as extra resources. Things like podcasts, articles, and videos. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this with any of your friends that are preparing for IELTS. And come and join us at e2language.com today. Thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful, and tell me in the comments about your tips for learning vocabulary.